Welcome to Hoffman's Hunting Heritage. Load your quiver, camo up, and join us for another great episode of Outdoors Action. Here is your host, Bill Hoffman.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Hoffman's Hunting Heritage. I'm your host, Bill Hoffman, and this week's show is all about saddle hunting. Is it rad? Is it a fad? Or is it just bad? Now, before we jump right into this show and what it's about, I gotta tell you a little bit of my background with saddle hunting as far as that goes. And I think if we wind the time's hand back all the way and we go back, I think to the year 2001, 2002, maybe even 2003, I purchased a trophy line tree saddle, and I did actually hunt out of it a few times. One of the reasons back then that I wanted to get it is I was really big into filming my hunts, even back that early, and I wanted to film friends' hunts, and it was one way for me to go out with a buddy who already had a tree stand set up. I could climb up to their tree stand and then use the saddle from that point to get kind of, the over-the-shoulder shot. And I think when we break down rad, fad, or bad, you're going to hear that brought up again, because I still think that's a very, very good option for using a tree saddle. However, I did hunt out of it a few times, and well, you know what? We're just going to break it down. And this is how we're going to break it down. There's all different kinds of models out there, and what I'm really going to focus on is one of the newer models out on the market right now, one of the more popular models. And the reason I want to focus on that one specifically is I think, there's a good chance that some of you have been thinking about getting this model, that you've already got this model, and also it's a Michigan-made thing by a guy who's an absolutely great person who I've actually never met, but I already consider a friend. And his name is John Tucker, and the model we are talking about is the Tacta Saddle, Tactisaddle. So Tacta Saddle, I believe the website's tactisaddle.com. You can check all that out. If you are familiar with Jason Samkoviak's podcast, the Traditional Bow Hunting and Wilderness Podcast, I talk about it all the time. Jason is a very good friend of mine. Jason and John Tucker have been friends for years, and Jason's a big proponent of John as a person, as a hunter, and as a business owner. So that's what we're going with, is the Tactic Saddle. Now, a few more things. The trophy line tree saddle that I hunted out of, I did keep it for a few years. I don't have it anymore. I believe I sold it right at, when eBay was super popular. And the Tacta Saddle, I should tell you this, I have Jason Samkoviak's unit. I did not pay for the Tacta Saddle, therefore it was not a it was not a gift. There was no sponsorship thing happening. I'm free to talk about it as I want to. There's no biased opinion here. Okay, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think on the good, the bad, and the ugly of not only the Tacta Saddle, but also saddle hunting in general. So, I think the way I'm going to break this down is, you see, I titled this episode, Rad, Fad, or Bad. So I'm going to break down each one of those three categories and just kind of give you my thoughts when it comes to saddle hunting on that. So, is saddle hunting rad? Well, I'm going to go ahead and say it is for some people. And what I mean by that is I'm going to let you know why I think it is rad. Now, saddle hunting has become hugely popular. Everywhere you hear, every TV show, every stinking podcast, they're talking about their saddles. There's a few reasons why. There is a big, huge movement right now on hunting mobile and hunting light. And a saddle does let you partake in both of those hunting tactics. For public land guys, you're not worried about carrying in a tree stand. You're not worried about, your tree stand getting stolen. You don't have to worry about the extra weight involved, but we'll talk more about the weight later. For all those reasons, it's pretty rad. It really is. I think the advantages are, think about this. When you hear guys like John Eberhart talk, or guys like Dan Infalt talk, both guys hunt out of saddles, I believe. I don't know that Infalt does a ton of saddle hunting, but I believe he does. The Hunting Public guys, if you watch their YouTube videos, they're in saddles all the time. I think when you watch them, you can see some of the benefits of their systems. So I forgot kind of where I was going with this, but what's rad about it is when you talk to those guys or you listen to those guys, a lot of times, when do they shoot their biggest buck? Here's the thought I was meant to get back on. When do they shoot their biggest buck? A big, huge, stinking percentage of the time that those guys shoot their biggest buck is the very first time they sit in that spot. And a saddle or a saddle hunting lets you have that first hunt over and over and over again. Because it's no big deal to climb down, move 30 yards, and climb back up either that hunt the next day. If wind changes, you can be down and up really super quick. If you're hunting in the morning and the thermals change or the wind changes, you can move. And, if you're seeing, deer movement on a certain trail or whatnot, this saddle is rad for that, because every time you climb up a tree, you have the opportunity for it to be the first time you sat in that tree. Now, here is one thing more, I would say, that makes it absolutely rad. And I think that this is maybe not rad for everybody. And I'm kind of going against my own opinion here. Everybody else says they are so comfortable in it. Well, here's my opinion on that. And the comfortability part is why I think Tactus saddles, or I'm sorry, I keep saying that brand because it's the brand name that sticks, but why I think saddle hunting is a fad. Here it is. It's not that comfortable. I know. I want it to be comfortable. I want to believe all the people that say it's so comfortable. I want to believe all the people that say, oh, you can just hang there. You can change their position. You can lean against the tree. You can straddle the tree. I ain't trying to wear knee pads in a damn tree. For me, at 5'10", 230 pounds, with 7 to 8% body fat. That's a joke, guys. I'm a husky guy. It's not that comfortable. It's not uncomfortable. So that's the important thing to remember. It's 100% not uncomfortable, but it is nowhere near as comfortable as my lone wolf assault. It's not. On the tree stand, I can bend down and crack my knees. I can twist my back. I can sit on the platform. I can dangle my legs. I understand that a lot of that same stuff you can do in a saddle. However, for me, it's just not as comfortable. It's not. The other reason I think that it's going to fall into a fad, not necessarily a bad, but a fad, is I think when guys are giving a lot of their opinions on this stuff, it's because they spent a lot of money on it. So they feel like they don't want to feel like they're duped. So they talk so publicly in favor of, oh, it's the best thing ever. It's so comfortable. Blah. Well, that's because they dropped, saddles ain't cheap, $200. whatever they end up costing, plus, their lines and if they're doing aiders or naders, or if they're just their bridges and all the other stuff, their lineman belt and their bridge and their tethers, all that jazz. You drop a lot of dough just to try something out. And I think guys sometimes get a little bit, they create a value where there maybe isn't one. Not saying everybody, I'm saying some guys. Now, again, this is not bad stuff. This is what I call fad stuff. And what I mean by the fad is guys are getting caught up in the movement. Guys are getting caught up in the, hey, this is new, even though it's not new. We already talked about it not being new. But it's a craze right now, and it's super popular. And it's not the same for everyone. Another reason why, for me, saddle hunting would go into the fad category is I really didn't, other than, okay, so I'll just finish the statement. I really didn't think that it helped my shooting at all over a tree stand. And what I mean by that is one of the big deals about, or one of the big cons or pros that people will say with saddle hunting is, you can shoot 360 degrees around a tree. And for me, on the little tiny platform that I was on, I just couldn't, I could get a shot off, but I didn't feel like it was comfortable. I didn't feel, not necessarily unethical, it wasn't the best mechanics. Now, again, I'm shooting a 60-inch longbow in the hands of maybe a compound guy. Oh my gosh. And if you're talking about crossbow or gun hunting, it's 100% rad. When you are using a crossbow or a gun in a saddle and you can brace yourself against that tree, you truly do have not only 365 degrees of shootability, but you're rock solid against that tree with your forearm. And you can lay the gun and rest it right across your bridge. So again, I kind of focus more on the bow hunting aspect of things. But for me, with a longbow and my personal opinion, saddle hunting kind of comes down to a fad. And again, that doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's not for me, but it may be very well for someone else. Now I want to talk kind of one of the reasons why, another reason why it's not for me. I talked about the comfort of the tree stand, right? A lot of guys talk that it's all about weight, right? It's about reducing weight so you can hike farther. I get it. I really do. And you can have everything in one backpack. That's true. But when I really look at it, really do, it's only like, I'm only saving like 4 to 6 pounds. For 4 to 6 pounds, I think I'd rather have the comfort of the tree stand. Now, this is also, let's say, a little bit of a telling of how I hunt. I hunt private property. I also hunt a lot of state land in Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. And I don't have crazy hikes. I don't. I hiked a half a mile to hunt? Of course. Have I hiked 3/4 of a mile? Of course. I don't think I've ever broken a mile. Not with a tree stand on my back anyway. I've still hunted, in thousands of acres before, but when I'm going to hunt whitetails and set up, those aren't necessarily often the type of spots that I pick. And I don't usually hunt in spots where 4 to 6 pounds is going to be a deal breaker for me, where I won't hunt that spot because I don't have a saddle. That's not how I'm looking to roll. The other thing is, for me, I hunt long sits. I do hunt a lot of short sits as well when I'm home because, dad, husband, you get out when you can. But when I go on hunting trips, I'm there to hunt. I'll see the guys at camp after the sun is down. We can sit by the fire and have whiskeys and stuff like that then. But if I can be in the woods, I'm going to be in the woods. And for me, it comes down to that comfort aspect. And I just wasn't that comfortable in the saddles in both brands that I've tried. Other brands might be different. But for me, I had to adjust quite often. And when you adjust quite often, what are you doing, guys? You're moving. in a saddle, it's hard to be completely still. Now, when you're John Eberhart and you're hunting as high up as he does, you can be swinging around there. You can be like a tetherball on a line, just boing, boing, boing. Of course, John's not like that, but you're so high up, you're out of that deer's view. But me with the longbow, with the angles, I like my feet to be at about 15 to 16 feet, which at 5 foot puts me at, 20 to 22 feet, when I'm standing up. That gives me the better angle on something that's a deer-sized game. I'm not afraid to go a lot shorter up in the tree. If the tree's got good cover, and especially if it's like a triple branched or triple trunk tree or something like that, I'll go where the backdrop and the front cover is, and with the tree stand, that lets me do that. Now again, if I was gun hunting or if I was crossbow hunting, you don't really have to worry about that as much, because you can just swing around and keep the deer between you and the tree. You really can hide behind the tree. Again, that's why it's a fad in my book. And okay, so I said we were going to talk about RAD, FAD, or BAD, and I know I'm kind of rambling here, but this one kind of hit me, and I didn't take notes or anything. I just want to talk to you guys from the heart on it. So let's talk about bad. What is bad about saddle hunting? And I don't really have much, guys. I don't, because I honestly believe it goes right in the middle for me as well. But if it's going to come down to bad, the only thing I can really say and tell you about why saddle hunting is bad is the fact that of the reason why I got out of it in the first place when I had that trophy line, and that is climbing systems and carrying them. So that being said, I'm sure there's a bunch of different ways that maybe I haven't tried and whatnot. But when I go out and hunt, I have my lone wolf assault, and I've got some military surplus back straps and kidney belt on it. So I wear it like a backpack. I strap my sticks right to it. I use the primal sticks. I don't use lone wolf sticks or hawk sticks just because that's not what I have. I have the primal. I like the primal sticks. Again, they're a little heavier, but they make a T at every step, and I like having a T at every step. But those primal sticks strap right to my stand, okay? And then when I get up, I just put my backpack. I hook it right to the steps, and I'm good to go. Now, without that stand serving as the frame for my mobile setup, I would have a pain. It would be a pain in the ass to carry my steps, and I haven't tried it. I mean, I'm going to probably, but I guess you could strap them together. You could carry them alongside your bow. You could, put a longer strap on them and carry them kind of like a duffel bag. I know there's other types of, aiders and gaiters and naders, but I think at that point, you're going to start gaining weight, and you're going to start gaining just a overall, I guess, pain in the ass, where you're not getting the benefits, right? You might as well just have steps and a stand. So, carrying your tree steps, carrying your climbing tools, stuff like that is the only reason I really see that saddles are bad. For me, the other reason they're bad is I don't think I'd want to sit in a saddle all day for an all-day hunt. I just don't. I mean, maybe, but for me, I just don't see myself really doing it. And the other option is, for the reason for me that I would put it in the bad category, is I'm not, and this could come with practice, guys. You could 100% say, but Hoffman, you haven't spent any time in it. Could be true. I've spent a good 24 hunts in the trophy line tree saddle, and I've spent maybe 3 hours and the Tactisaddle total in the backyard. Now, the Tactisaddle in that 3 hours is a wildly superior product than to what I was using back in the day. And if someone was going to, they said, hey, should I buy a Tactisaddle? I say, hell yes, you should buy one and you should try it out for yourself. Here's why it doesn't work for me. But the very reasons it may not work for me, it may very well work for you. Most of the people I see liking them happen to be a little bit skinnier. So maybe that has something to do with it. But John Tucker's been hunting out of it for years, and he's not any different than me, body-wise. So, again, RAD, lots of reasons why they're RAD. FAD, that's where I lie. They're FAD for me. Lots of reasons why they're a FAD for me. And bad, there's not a whole lot of reasons why they're bad. In fact, the reasons that I put that they're bad really don't have anything to do with the saddles themselves, but more with the climbing gear. Right? So I guess what it comes down to, and I probably could have said this in 10 seconds, was try it for yourself. But in closing, I'll say this. If you're apprehensive about it and you're a gun hunter or you are a crossbow hunter, don't be. You can absolutely have a riot out of a tree saddle. If you're going to be hunting with buddies, or you're going to be doing any filming, or you're going to be going up with your kids, tree saddle's fantastic. You only have to hike in one stand. You hike in that one stand, that set of sticks that you have strapped to the stand, like I said, you set that up and you just climb on up with your lineman rope and clip your support bridge in, and boom, you're good. You're right over your buddy's shoulder. I think that there's a lot of benefits to that, right? Or you're right over your kid's shoulder, and again, you're only hauling in one stand. One thing else that I just didn't bring up that I want to mention real quick, in my opinion, about this is we didn't really talk about the time it takes to set up. Now, I'm sure some people will be quicker than me. However, I recently watched a video on the Hunting Public's YouTube page where they had the guys from Mantis or Tethered Nation on, and they were talking, and this was the guy that, like, I don't know if he invented it, but he was like their guy, right? I think he was the owner of the company, and he was saying that he can be at the base of a tree and set up and hunting and ready to go. And he said some ungodly amount of time. I think he said like 16 to 17 minutes. And I just rolled my eyes because with my 3 sticks, right? My three sticks and my lone wolf, I can have those 3 sticks on. I can be at hunting height with the lone wolf set up, and I'm already drinking a cup of coffee at the top of the tree stand in about 7 minutes. And I'm slow, right? So, and that's with, if it's hunting temperatures, that's without sweating, without anything, 7 to 10 minutes, no problem. So if the owner of the saddle company can't beat me in time up and down a tree, I don't see how me practicing more and more and more with a saddle would make me any quicker. Now, it may be a little quieter. Because there's, less metal to bang around. I could bang stuff on the tree stand metal or on the steps metal. I get that. I do. That's a total consideration. But for me, when it comes to comfortability, shootability, and portability, and what I mean by portability is carrying in your sticks, I don't think that saddle hunting for me outweighs carrying a mobile tree stand pack. It just doesn't. And that's not a knock on the guys who do it. It's certainly not a knock on the products, because this tactile saddle product I have in my hands right now is fantastic. It is super well made. John puts a lifetime warranty on it. And if you're going to buy a saddle at all, you should buy a tactile saddle. It's just not for me. But it's not going to stop me from using it to try it out a little bit more this fall. Because you know why? I like to get outdoors. It's a wild place to be.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Hoffman's Hunting Heritage. Get outdoors. It's a wild place to be.